Well, those were the headlines, ladies and gentlemen. But let's now begin the show and put the spotlight on India's consumption story. Redseer consultant claims that quick commerce is one of the key enablers of India's consumption economy that's growing 7 to 10x faster than India's digital economy overall. And one of the biggest drivers, like I said, has been the expansion of the quick commerce segment as a channel. And it has nearly 27 million monthly transacting users. And that is the data which was collated as of April 2025. In fact, quick commerce now accounts for 15% of total e-commerce GMV. But that's not the whole story. Well, the big question is around e-commerce as a channel. It was once the engine of rapid growth. The industry is now facing a slowdown in 2024. India's e-retail market, while still the world's second largest, saw its growth rate halve to 10 to 12% from over 20% in previous years. So what's the reason and what will be the outlook, and will it remain muted for the sector going forward, even as we're seeing several changes like quick commerce being added to the fray? That's a separate retail channel, of course. To decode that and more, I'm now joined by Anil Kumar, the founder and CEO of Redseer Consultants. Thank you very much, Anil, for joining us here on ET Now.
Hi, Sumita. Thanks for inviting me, and pleasure to be here.
Yeah. So, Anil, I was just going through your report. It states that quick commerce is growing 7 to 10x faster than PFCE and digital economy. While all of that really sounds great, but what's the state of India's e-commerce sector? Jan to March estimates suggest that the industry faced a slowdown in sales. But what about successive quarters? How are you seeing its trajectory?
Yeah. So no, absolutely. I think the e-commerce, which was at somewhat of a time, like if you go back a couple of years, was growing at a healthy 30+%, and over a couple of years back, it came down to about 20%. But the last 1 year or 2 years have not been that great, and the growth has slowed down to about 12% year on year, and that's the growth which we saw on the FY25. Now, as we move on to the new financial year, which is FY26, we've seen that the growth has picked up a bit. So from the March till the June, we have seen +2% growth rate, which is about 14 to 15% against the 12%. So there has been some bit of a pickup as we see, but largely this is quite a bit of an underperformance when compared to what is expected out of India's e-commerce. And more so when if you look at the penetration of India's e-commerce, it is still at a very, very early stage, and there's quite a bit of headroom. So it has to pick up at some point of a time.
Right, it has to pick up at some point in time. But Anil, the big question really is, will it be able to, given the fact that you have a parallel delivery mechanism, a parallel e-retail vehicle that's currently plying, and that's quick commerce with reduced delivery timelines. And of course, there's several offers as well. So what is the outlook then you have for the e-commerce segment going forward into the next quarter? And of course, for the overall year, you mentioned that 2% is the growth that you've seen from the March to June quarter. However, that's not significant. So what is your overall outlook for this year and of course for the upcoming quarter?
Right. So we are hoping that by the FY26, the year-on-year growth should be able to be close to about 20% from the last year's about 12%. So it should significantly move ahead of where it has been. Just to be sure, the way we look at the e-commerce is quick commerce is part of the e-commerce. So online retail is largely being looked from three lenses here. So one is the traditional first gen e-commerce, where you would see the large horizontals and the global players which have come into global models which have been into the India market. The second one is the convenience commerce, which is the quick commerce, and has been one of the newest entrants to the market. And the third one would be the value commerce, which is bringing the unorganized or small or unbranded products to the customers through online retail. So those are three parts of the e-commerce, and that's how we look at it. When I'm saying the market would touch about 20% by the end of the FY26, it's a cumulative growth between the three. Now, to your question that what will drive the growth of the commerce, I think one of the big challenges which the the first gen commerce has been facing is they have seen a tapered down monthly transacting users. So MTUs have not been increasing. And one of the reasons for MTUs not been increasing is that customers are not finding the real value in terms of the products which are coming through the first gen commerce. One of the initial
Yes.
problems the e-commerce solved was they
Right.
got the mobile phones and electronics not only at a cheap rate, these were the online first models, and also they were able to penetrate in the small cities where the traditional retail was not there. But now, as the traditional retail has been penetrated and the discounting is no more there, the customers are not finding a real value prop. Why should they buy from online commerce? So that's where the value prop of value commerce and the quick commerce starts coming in. What value commerce has been able to do is they have been able to organize the
Right. So,
small and unbranded products and are available at a branded channel. And quick commerce,
right.
of course, has been able to give you products at a much faster rate. Sorry, yeah.
Absolutely. So, Anil, very, very pertinent and important points that you've made with respect to quick commerce, reduced delivery timelines, and value commerce, which is going to be very, very significant for any kind of commerce going forward. And of course, there is stiff competition between these various retail channels online. So, what kind of strategies that companies need to really come up with to sort of, especially in the e-commerce segment, so that these platforms can gain resilience?
I think okay, let's look at the categories because this is a category problem. It is not a channel problem specifically, right? So the mobile phones and electronics as a category are not gonna grow in a significant manner as it used to be earlier. And while as the consumption would pick up, maybe there will be a few bips of a growth rate which will go up on the mobile and electronics, which accounts for about 40% of GMV. But there's not much of a solution which you can do there. The solutioning can happen in the three categories. One is the fashion, which is a large category. The second is grocery, which is going to become the largest category. And the third is we call it beauty, personal care, and home improvement. Those are the three categories, right? So one of the things which the e-commerce companies can really do is they can look at a micro market strategy, which means that now you have to be able to serve a Pune's market very, very differently from a Bangalore's market. So when you open an app of Flipkart or Amazon in Pune versus when you open in some part of a Bangalore, it has to look different. The offerings has to look different. The products have to look different. So a micro market based strategy is going to be one big driver. The second bit which you need to do is to really double down on the value commerce in terms of the products which you are not able to find through the traditional general merchandise stores or through the GT store or through the modern retail stores. So that's the second bit. I would like to go on value commerce. And the third one is really connecting to the customer in a very local and vernacular manner. So those are three things which we can really look at: micro market, value commerce, and connecting to the customers in a local way.
Okay, so this is quite critical, and of course, some of these categories are going to drive growth than, of course, other categories. But let me talk a bit, Anil, about the e-commerce segment, because every e-commerce brand that we speak to, it says that growth is going to come from tier 2 and 3 towns and cities, and of course, earnings of some of these companies have also shown that they are struggling to maintain profitability. And quick commerce perhaps is expanding at the cost of e-commerce. So I want to understand from you, will it really put a spanner in the works so far as an expansion of e-commerce into these tier 2 and 3 towns and cities is concerned? Will it halt their growth?
Not necessarily. We see that quick commerce would, of course, grow, Sumita, but the use cases and the number of customers who can get onto the quick commerce would, at some point of a time, going to taper. So there will be a use case for quick commerce which is going to be different from e-commerce. And the traditional e-commerce or first gen e-commerce will also come up with a hybrid delivery methodology, which means that there would be some products which will be available in a day's time and some products which will be available in a half an hour or 1 hour of a time. So I don't think that quick commerce is going to put a spanner in the wheel for the growth of e-commerce. In fact, it is good, and we've seen it in past many times that if there's a high burn, high speed growth new age model, they are able to acquire customers and make them digitally more savvy, and then pave the path for the next set of offerings to come in. So I believe that there is a bit of a temporary bump which has come into the first gen e-commerce growth model, but it would pick up as the consumption would pick up, one, and two, as we'll see that some of the non-transactors, MTUs, would come in either through quick commerce or through the growth channels of the first generation e-commerce models.
Right. Just one final question, Anil, before we let you go. And I want to ask you this, final question essentially on profitability of all of these e-commerce companies. When do you think that could be achieved?
No, I think it's a pretty good question. And actually, if you see, one of the reasons that the first gen models are also not growing that fast is the focus on the profitability which they have. Some of them are going IPO, some of them are planning to go IPO. So the bonds have come down significantly. Now, I think it's a matter of time. The models have been in place, so it's not like, let's say, 2 to 3 years back when they would need to scratch their head on how to become profitable. Today, the lever is in the hands of the e-commerce operators, and they have to choose that how much they want to burn and grow versus how much they want to sort of move towards profitability. Most of the companies are under the single digit burn or percentage burn, and possibly depending on the kind of a growth rate which they're expecting, the IPO and the public market route they're expecting, they can sort of get into profitability between, let's say, a year to 2 year of a time. A lot of them, by the way, are profitable already.
Yes, they are, but there could be some challenges given the growth of the quick commerce segment. Of course, some of these companies will try to get into that segment as well. And of course, Anil, India's e-retail market could reach $170 to $190 billion by 2030. So lots of opportunity for growth ahead in this segment. On that note, thank you very much for joining us and sharing your thoughts on India's consumption story, particularly with respect to quick commerce and e-commerce. Appreciate you taking the time out and speaking to us.